Hello everyone and welcome to Town Hall Breakaway episode number 2. And that's so weird to say after doing our other show, which has 149 episodes. But, you know, big shout out to everyone in the chat already showing up, waiting for the show, because we have our second episode, our first ever guest, and a lot of cool stuff to talk about, having a early look at the patch notes that are coming out tonight. And we get to get that first look at here. Talking about the Battle on the High Seas, patch notes, and an Argus deep dive with a new video that we've created in an interview with Kalo himself. But we do have Zoya and Kalo here. And Zoya, how you been, buddy?
I've been good. It's been, what, 24 hours since I last talked to you? So, you know, a lot's changed. I'm excited, man. Thursdays are great days. And I'm excited to, A, show off the video we made, and we got some cool patch notes. So, yeah.
Well, Kalo, since this is your first time on the show, being our first guest ever, why don't we get a bit of a background check on you? What is the story of Kalo?
Oh, geez. Well, I've been competitively gaming for as long as I can remember. Nothing super major, but I've dabbled in basically every genre of game since the beginning of time.
Wow.
And I've been involved with Breakaway since the reveal at TwitchCon as a community member. I started posting on their forums immediately and kind of just getting involved as much as I can, and been loving it since. So, yeah.
What was the thing that first just like drew you in, just out of curiosity? Like you just saw it at TwitchCon, like live or online, and
yeah, I was at TwitchCon
okay.
last year. It was my first ever convention, actually, and
from Hawaii, mind you.
Yes, yeah. So Breakaway was kind of like the big event there. I had no idea what it was, honestly, until Sunday, the last day, and I finally went to check out the big esports-looking booth, and I had to cancel a lot of plans just getting back in line to play the game over and over again. It was amazing. So, yeah.
That's like
cool.
the best and worst part of some of these conventions. I did the same thing at BlizzCon years ago. You go to experience this massive convention, and then you get this new game in your hands, and you're like, nope, everything else can go on hold. I need to play this now. So that's awesome that you had that experience. Well, we're just going to hop right in to talk about the Battle on the High Seas, which was, I guess, not their... It was the first ever broadcast for an esports event out on the water and on a warship, which is ambitious and insane. And I'd say it came with pros and cons.
Well, the casters looked cold. That's for sure. That wind seemed to be blowing quite a bit. Might have been a little bit of sting to it. So that would definitely be one of the cons, though. Super cool for them.
I mean, so the pro is it's like the coolest thing ever, right? It's like actually just so cool. But like you said, I laughed so hard when we had the first game get cast, and then they go to a quick break, and the casters got these jackets, they got gloves on, like they are geared up, and I was dying. And
yeah,
I mean, it really reminded me of probably the most difficult casting experience I've had in my life, where it was a Hewlett-Packard launch event, and we were basically casting. I was solo casting a broadcast in a basically a big party. Imagine a warehouse that's decked out for a party with all kinds of computers, and there's a DJ just jamming away in the venue. I have no headphones. I have a handheld mic, and I just have to try to cast a game with a DJ just jamming in the venue. Couldn't hear anything. They had helicopters flying above, cold wind blowing at them. So props to them, because honestly, somehow it was not obstructive to the experience. It seemed really good. Just looked challenging, knowing the conditions of being on an airship or not airship. Is it called an airship? Warship.
Oh, God.
Warship.
That'll be next year.
Airships next year. Just in the air. They're all wearing parachutes just in case something bad happens. That'd be nuts.
What'd you think of the games, Kalo? Since you've been playing the game for basically a year now, and to see players come in, Rogue and Misfits, have players from other titles. They play H1Z1 and Rocket League primarily, I think, were the games that the players came from. Were you about were you surprised by their skill level? Were you about, you know, what you expected, or?
That's actually my favorite thing, or one of my favorite things about Breakaway, is seeing competitive players from other games come in and try it, to see like these little like mini metas form sort of within the groups is really cool. Obviously the passing game is kind of what stood out. It felt a little spammy to me, I'll say, but it was really fun to watch.
Yeah, I think Rogue versus Echo Fox was definitely the highlight of the event. That was, it just shows you that like clearly no one's at even of the veteran players, no one is even like 70% probably not even 50% of like their potential skill level in this game, just because it's so new and it's changing so constantly. But to see like even like this really close set, and like almost every round went to game 5, or like every match went to game 5, right? So like it was so tense, and even with like some sloppy play here and there, you know, you still was like so tense and so fun. Rogue versus Echo Fox really showed that you know, there's a lot of potential whenever we get to the high level, like close games.
Even the Royal Navy team was doing a lot of creative passing that I thought was really impressive. Just using the ledges, getting to the very edge, throwing the ball up, like for a team that had, in theory, been playing for maybe 3 or 4 days. It was good to see that. So really fun event. And I gotta say, just got me amped up for the future of this game as a competitive title, because seeing those first glimpses, even though it wasn't necessarily like professional esports, like super seasoned players, it was still hype. It was still so hype to watch. And that's amazing, right? That's a sign of just an entertaining game. But
you have two factors that take into play with like how an esports can get successful. And A, it needs to be fun to play, and B, it needs to be fun to watch. Doesn't matter how fun the game is to play if it's not fun to watch. Clearly, we've all been enjoying playing it, and clearly there was a lot more that could have been done production-wise on the end of the tournament. You know, again, it wasn't the highest level of skill, but it was fun to watch, right? You know, the Echo Fox versus Rogue match was insanely fun. So I don't know, it makes me more excited.
Yeah, well, I guess we're moving on to patch notes, because not too much to say. If you guys didn't catch the actual broadcast, they actually, I believe they just uploaded a highlight reel onto the YouTube channel for the official Breakaway YouTube. So check that out. It's a, you know, I think it's a brand new video. So good stuff there. Moving on to patch notes. So this is the juicy stuff. And I got to say, Zoya, I said this right before we started. I feel weird, because
I feel weird too.
We were sent patch notes ahead of the show with the purpose of showing it off on the show, but they haven't been released to the public yet. And that's such a foreign thing to us. We're not used to being given like privy information prior to a broadcast. So first off, devs, I love you.
Yeah,
you're the real MVP.
That's it's blowing our minds. It feels like we're about to do something illegal. Like we shouldn't have access to these notes. So big shout out to the devs, because we were actually planning on doing another episode Monday, like once we got to see the patch notes and stuff, just to like, you know, get that out of the way. But we get to do it today. I'm so excited.
Kalo, you're smiling too much apparently.
Am I? Oh,
he's happy, man.
Me in the chat here.
He gets to read the patch notes to you guys. It's exciting. So let's draw this out like another minute or two. Keep teasing the chat a little bit, like these patch notes.
Oh no.
No, we could show them off.
So I mean, all right. So this is patch notes that will be going live for the July 6th Alpha weekend. Today is July 6, 2017, meaning that these patch notes will be hitting the servers in less than 2 hours when the show concludes. Also note that at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific, when the servers go live, there's going to be a show match featuring 2 teams from UC Irvine. They're both, it's just 8 students from UC Irvine competing against each other in kind of a show match to show off the new hero. The new hero is, what we can tell here, it's Merrick the Devourer, and that is the evolution of the Black Knight. So the Black Knight, Victor, and Rollins they've all been confirmed as getting reworks, and that rework more or less means just visual change, right? New skins and the whole rebranding of them. And Black Knight obviously was a pretty generic name. I believe Argus was formerly known as Spartacus and something else, right?
Spartacus, just Spartacus.
I just remember Spartacus.
Okay, I read the wiki and I thought I read something else as like an older name than that. But so this is kind of the same treatment.
Yeah.
And the BK, now known as Merrick the Devourer, has begun his transformation into Merrick. We can even pull up this text here. We copy pasted the email. This is the way I copy pasted it into our Google Doc here.
Zoom in on that.
Give it that Control Plus. Gotta click on the browser.
Yeah, so Black Knight getting just a rename to Merrick the Devourer, which sounds so much cooler than Black Knight. I can't wait to see his visual rework. We'll have to wait for that 8 o'clock stream for that, but
right.
yeah, not much more we can talk about it. It's Merrick the Devourer now, which is terrifying.
Obviously, this is really cool, though, just having that rework come in one at a time. That means we get to look forward to Victor and Rollins in the near future, I'd imagine. But Black Knight was super generic, so I'm kind of happy. He gets a more Googleable name. You type in Black Knight, you're going to get Monty Python or something, right? And that's as far as you're going to get. But to find Merrick the Devourer, that's going to be a lot easier and just good for even that sense of things. Network and performance changes. Previously, players might have noticed the camera moving out of sync. This is intended with their intended mouse input, resulting in a sense of fighting the camera. They're just kind of working on all kinds of, again, it's an alpha. There's a lot of just optimization, further stuff with the vertical jitter, dynamic resolution. They're looking to help stabilize that. Server select console command.
Yeah, just you can choose what server you want to
I'd like to say that these are actually really big changes. A lot of people were complaining about like the camera lag and not being able to pick your server. So like we'd have like 6 people from NA playing on an EU server last week. A lot of weird stuff like that. So these should be pretty big changes.
There was no way to check what server you're on, was there?
You could check your ping if you weren't full screen, but I believe that's about it.
Okay, because I did actually last week in particular notice some extreme latency for the first time, and that was pretty jarring. So that is actually huge. So he is just selecting everything.
Oh, you can see me selecting that? Rip. I'll stop. Sorry. I didn't realize you could see it. My bad. Yeah, these are just a lot of good changes that, come with an alpha. Performance UI stuff, is number one priority.
Yeah, the Warrior Select countdown timer, that's actually huge. Because
that wasn't needed.
Presently, or in previous tests, you would look at it and just be like, oh, I can sit here for an eternity and choose my warrior, and then suddenly the match starts. It's like, oh, I guess I'm playing alone at this game. But no, this is all just good quality of life stuff. But this is kind of where things get spicy in the patch notes. Huh?
This is. I'm sorry. I'm too excited for this next one.
Oh, okay.
I'm too excited.
You want to read
pointing
it?
at it. I was like,
yeah. Let me get that. Primary attack stun removal. Oh my god, that feels so good to say. Primary attacks no longer cause reactions. Stunlock haters rejoice. That is music to my ears. I've been really excited to maybe test this in a test patch on the side or something. A lot of people have been very frustrated with the stunlock, obviously. So seeing this change is going to be super interesting, I think, to see how it changes the game.
Yeah. And it might not need to be a change that's done across the board, right? Like it's an alpha, right? So you need to make drastic changes like this to test the potential of the game, because I'm sure there hasn't been a build where hit stun has not been removed from the game. So maybe some hit characters will need it. Maybe some characters definitely did not need it. We'll have to see how much impact it has on the game. It's going to feel very different for sure.
Yeah,
I am excited to test it out.
And, the chat right now is saying rip melee, but they are actually adjusting the defensive ability cooldowns to try to help balance this. So as it stands, you're able to utilize your escapes, your right clicks to get away from that stun lock. And that's your only way in a lot of situations, because the stun lock can just become so punishing that you're going to get bodied real fast. But they've increased those cooldowns by a sizable amount. Some of them are pretty
drastic, too.
Look at this Kyra. 24 seconds.
Kyra, Morgan, and Alona all got massive cooldown increases to their
And like
disengages.
in a lot of ways, this changes the game and more than just that, because you think of the Godspeed with Kyra, right? That's now on a 24-second cooldown. So every attempt you go to make that shot is now that much more costly on a 24-second cooldown. If you miss it, if it's shut down, well, guess what? You got to back up. You got to find time to wait those 24
Patch
seconds.
says Morgan. I'm assuming that's not Morgan Le Fay is not in the game anymore.
Even the devs can't get used to the change.
Yeah, I liked Morgan Le Fay. I'm sad they changed that name, but
Same.
that's Corin. Corin is.
I didn't even notice that.
Morgan.
So
I said it out loud. I said Morgan out loud, and it didn't even like process in my head that like I just still recognize her as Morgan Le Fay. So I didn't even realize that it was not her name anymore. Yeah, those are pretty massive changes. Like for like Alona at like 10 seconds to 22 seconds, you're getting
on her blink.
So few off now. Like you're literally more than double the time. So that's.
And those are some of the better abilities for, like, you know, moving the ball quickly, right? To be able to self-pass with something like a blink, the Godspeed. And I like that they're making those kind of movements riskier and a little bit less frequent. It's going to make those plays feel more rewarding when they do happen, or more easier to punish when they don't work out.
Yeah.
I'd like to add that this might be the worst change ever made, with the stun lock being removed, but it also might be the best. And I'm hoping that people are going to test cooldown reduction more than anything else, because it might be just too important now with these higher cooldowns. So
yeah, it's it'll be interesting. Like, these are like both very big drastic changes. Like, we didn't just get the cooldown change, we also got the hit stun. So like this could go 300 different directions, right? We don't know. That's the point of the alphas, right? Is to test this and make sure what's best, and then by the time beta comes around and out and launch, you know, we figure out if this is cancer or not.
Yep.
Oh wow, I was completely wrong on Kyra. That's her E. I like don't play Kyra.
Yeah, that would be her.
I have 2 games.
Yeah, it's
so it's not her
her
right click, so it
dash,
doesn't
the
affect
roll.
her. Okay, what is her right click?
the roll, she rolls away.
See, I've literally played 2 games with her, so my fault on that. Good job on correcting me there, chat. But okay, so it doesn't nerf that, but it does nerf Alona at least a lot in that regard. Well, the regen equipment will no longer regenerate during health when you're attacking. Before, it was just when you're taking damage, correct?
Another pretty big change.
I think it's a healthy one.
Yes, definitely. That was a bit. You know, especially like when there was a skill gap. You know, whenever like if you're on like specifically someone like Kyra or Victor, where you're just like freely autoing from a distance, and like they're not going to get to you at all. Like you can easily heal up while still applying insane pressure. I think it's a good change.
Pretty straightforward.
Chat seeing their preview of what's happening next in the patch. Argus, everyone's favorite former gladiator, was wrecking a little bit too much havoc for our liking. So they've given a bit of a nerf. The base speed has been reduced from 10.5 to 10. Is that his movement speed?
Yeah, they have different movement speeds.
Yeah. The no retreat distance has been reduced to 10 as well, from 11.5, so that's his Q. And then the no retreat and for glory or glory. The game calls it for glory, but it's listed
for
as
glory
here.
Yeah.
Damage ratio has been reduced from 0.5 to 0.4. So damage gone, movement gone, and then a little bit of a distance gone on his Q.
I mean, he definitely needed nerfs, but does he need nerfs with hit stun being removed? Well, it's tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to decide. But he definitely did need nerfs, like on the old build. Like, you know, his skill floor was a little too high. It was very easy to get value on him. So definitely changes needed to happen. Hopefully he's not booty butt cheeks right now, just because there's so many changes. We'll have to see.
I think good Argus players will still have an easy enough time snowballing, but that's without factoring in the stun lock, just referring to these nerfs, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Prior to this patch, where would you have put Argus, like, on the totem of warriors?
I would want him on my team every game, especially in solo queue. Too much value. It's too easy to make plays with him.
Yeah, jack of all trades. He's good at team fighting. He's good at ball running. He's good at PvEing. He can destroy buildables and secure the crystal buffs. So he's very good.
Yeah.
And we're talking a little bit more about him later in the show, so look forward to that. Made a little video for him. Then we got Alona. They said generally they're feeling pretty good about where Alona is. We're just trying to tweak her sunburst a bit, so the active frames have gone up by 1. So instead of being 3 active frames when you press her E, you get 4. Yeah, it's just nice small change. Yeah, it doesn't really impact too much. Merrick, BKOP, doing too much damage for a tank. So his strength has been brought down. His primary base damage has been reduced. His ability 1 base damage has been reduced, and his ultimate damage ratio has been reduced. So pretty much across the board, his damage got thrown in the dumpster. He's really all about crowd control, zoning, ball control. Would you say he excels in that point, or am I still a scrub where I think BK is the god of controlling the ball?
Hey man, Thorgrim, that's just what tanks do. So much disruption.
Yeah.
I think Black Knight was definitely like the meta of the two between the tanks. I'm curious if these changes will bring Thorgrim up to #1, and we'll be seeing a lot more of him, because these are some pretty significant damage nerfs, and that was like part of the reason why he was so valuable. But his health pool remains untouched, which is a good thing. I like the fact that the tanks are tanky, but hopefully this makes Thorgrim a little bit more viable.
Every time I faced like a comp that had 2 BKs, it just felt impossible. They just run in, pull you in, and do insane damage, and they just walk away. If they almost die from an onslaught of damage through pretty much all of our abilities, they'd live through it and just walk away. So I'm glad they're taking damage away, because like you said, he's still so tanky. But down to Kyra.
I think Kalo wanted to say something.
Oh, I was just going to say about double comps, or like, when things are picked twice. I would be okay. I understand there's only 9 characters in the game right now, but I would be 100% okay if they just made it so you can only have 1 of each on your team. It's too irritating to, like, especially with the stun lock. I guess maybe it's different now, but like running into a double Argus or double Argus with a Black Knight even, it's too terrible. So that
was my my one concern I gave in episode 1, where I was like, I don't think this is a good thing. I think it's confusing as a viewer in an esports setting to have 2 of the same character. And like you said, if it's ever prominent to stack 2, like the 2 Alonas running around healing each other, like I don't know if that would ever be a thing, but I'd prefer it not.
You're so silly. Why did you do that little
Because that's how I feel about it, Zoya.
Yeah, I agree. Single character limit would be great.
Kyra's ballista range has gone down about 17%, so it's 15 meters in terms of its damage, and it fires less frequently, up to 1.5 seconds on the cooldown. Again, big nerfs. Each shot's going to hurt, but they're less frequent.
And less range. That's the more important one. The range on it was obnoxious. Like, you could position that, and like, if you don't kill the turrets, you're not going to be able to score most of the time. So I know Kyra's ballista definitely needed changes.
I'm not sure if I actually agree with this change. I'd like if her ballista kept the range and its damage was taken down. It does like 80 a hit right now, which for some characters is like a third of your life. It seems a little too much. So I don't know. We'll see how this changes that.
Yeah, I agree.
You can look at it in both ways. Like, yeah, it's going to really hurt if you walk into it, but this kind of forces tanks to walk in and absorb that damage. When there's a ballista, it kind of forces the team to respond to that ballista in that regard. Whereas when you take the range and the attack speed away, rather than taking damage away, it's not going to disrupt ball movement as much. So you have a better window. You know it's on that longer cooldown, the 1.5 seconds for each shot. And I don't know, maybe that is enough to deal with the the relic, or throw it forward during the time where it's going to hit you, go grab it.
The only downside to the range nerf is most range characters could already outrange it to kill it. So now it's like, for them, this doesn't really change all that much, because you could still pick it off at max range. So that just gives you a little bit more wiggle room to it. So I kind of agree with Kalo now that, the damage might have been a little bit better, because it was already easy to kill from a range perspective. But I don't know. Her ballista definitely needed to be changed for sure.
Well, I guess we'll have to see during this alpha weekend how it works out. Jara, the snap trap, a little over 2, and they say the snap trap stun duration has been reduced down to 2 seconds from 2.5. That's a sizable nerf, though.
Yeah, I mean, her trap just felt bad to be in. With the latency added on top of it, you felt like you were in there until you were dead, basically. So this is a welcome change.
2.5 seconds is a long time to be stunned in a game like this. So bringing it down to 2 seconds, I like the change.
Then there's some bug fixes, quick chat performance. Roland's primary attack. We fixed an issue where Roland sometimes could not cancel out of his primary attack. And then they're mentioning top priorities. Network code and the vertical jitter improvements are their number 1 and 2, and the packet loss indicator is number 3.
One thing about the bug fixes, that quick chat's performance thing was actually the most irritating thing ever. Like, you would have somebody on your team who you didn't know who it was because it just says unknown, spam just the word fight, and your screen would freeze for a few seconds, and you'd come back to a dead team and just fight in your bottom right corner. Yeah, it was awful. So I'm glad this got fixed.
Okay, that's good. I never saw that. That's nuts. That's a good change then.
Yep.
Great patch notes. So far, the patch notes we've been getting have been very minor, like little tweaks here and there. This is our first like massive, and this is a lot of changes. Like, you could have like deleted half of these changes and just left in either the defensive cooldown changes or the no hit stun changes, and that would have been like a game changing patch, right? But we got a lot of game changing things in this patch, so this weekend's going to be pretty nuts. I'm excited to see, watch people's streams and play the game to see what the game looks like right now, because it could be a very different meta after this patch.
Dude, the hit stun change alone, like, is such a bold decision, and this is the kind of decisions that I think are essential for alphas. It's not a change you can make once the game goes live without forcing chaos, essentially. And whether or not it stays, I still think it's a fantastic thing they're doing it now, especially now that the game is becoming a little bit more accessible. The player pool is growing, because I'm so intrigued to see what the game is like. And I don't know, Kalo, what are your overall outlooks for that change?
Sorry, for which one?
Just the hit stuns and like.
Oh, I won't lie. I'm a little worried about Argus. I really want good players like Flipped Up, Icon, Gutter Magic to really dive into that character this weekend, so we can get some good like analysis on him. I'm really glad that Black Knight or Merrick doesn't have it now, though. It was too much to just get basically one shot with a full combo from him because of stun lock and ults, and it was gross. So I think it's going to be a good change. I'm not going to confirm that, though. It could be the worst thing ever done. So
yeah. That's the thing. Like, let's just say after this weekend, everyone unanimously agrees that it was an awful change to make. It can easily just get turned back on next week, hopefully, right? Like, this is not something like our feedback is going to be very important this weekend. So make sure, like, if you are playing a lot, you give the devs your feedback as much as possible. Go to the forums and make posts. But
like, Argus could basically full combo, right? Like a backline squishy and blow them up. You just open up with. Redemption. I'm still remembering all the ability names.
Retribution.
Oh, so close. Then you just auto, and then you can Q, auto, E, auto, right?
Yep.
Or maybe not auto after the E because you're kicking them away. But
I mean, last week, I don't know if it was latency, but you could basically just keep autoing and kill somebody because they were stuck on you.
Well,
so
that's terrible.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
There also could be a situation where like certain heroes get the hit stun and certain ones don't. I'm curious as to what I would like hit stun. I'm curious like what ball control is going to be like without hit stun. How easy is it going to be able to run in the ball without the hit stun? So maybe like there needs to be like a fumble. Like if you're fumbling the ball, you get a hit stun or something. I don't know. We'll have to play it. We'll have to play it because this opens up so much possibility that I'm excited to just grind some games this weekend.
Oh, tonight?
Yeah, a few hours. One thing they didn't talk about in this patch notes, which I'm still hopeful for the weeks to come, Argus does Thorgrim's job better than Thorgrim does right now. Thorgrim a couple weeks ago used to be able to, toss people off the map like it was the easiest thing in the world. Now Argus's kick does that
Yeah.
100% better than Thorgrim's entire kit does. So I'm hoping that gets some tweaks maybe.
Well, Thorgrim's reverse though, right? He throws you behind him.
Yeah.
Right, but he doesn't. He throws you up basically now. There's almost no distance that he throws you behind. It used to be, you know, if he threw you near an edge, you were off the map for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, technically Argus can use Retribution as well to knock you off the edge.
Yep.
So he's got another option for it too. Long cooldown, but yeah, no, that's interesting. To compare the two and looking at the tank role and what is the tank supposed to excel at, and then look at the melee, you know, like I guess he's a melee warrior or melee fighter as his classification.
How about we show off our Argus video before we deep dive into Argus, Jake?
Oh, so smart.
Good call.
Zoya.
Good call.
All right. Well, we put together a little bit of a. This is the start of a brand new series Zoya and I are working on. We're trying to make a database of Breakaway videos that go from everything to just little introductions to a hero, like a 2-minute. This is what this warrior is, and then we're gonna make a bunch of introductory like tutorials when it comes down to stuff like Breakaway 101. This is what the game is, and then ball movement, ball control, and later on we're gonna work with players that have proven to be, you know, at the top level to create more tutorials and dive in and give a little bit of a deeper guide. So a lot of cool content. This is the very first video of the mix. Let's take a look. Welcome to the first ever Breakaway Warrior Spotlight featuring Argus, the first architect of war. Argus is a melee fighter and one of the hardest warriors to escape from in the game. Be prepared for him to constantly be in his opponent's faces doing large amounts of damage. The first of Argus's many mobility options is his ability Slide. Although it doesn't have a very long range, it makes you invulnerable during its duration, which is essential for getting out of sticky situations. Using this when you are surrounded by enemies is your best chance at survival. His next ability, No Retreat, is great for chasing down your enemies to help secure a kill that may have gotten away. You can also use it for some creative relic plays by self-passing it to yourself for a little extra momentum in your escape. With 4 Glory, Argus unleashes a powerful kick onto his opponent, knocking them backwards. While it does solid damage, its greatest use is its utility. Displacing and locking down your opponents can help secure some clutch kills. Argus has the powerful 2-hit combo named Retribution. Great as an opener, Argus throws his target into the air before smashing them back into the ground. Doing considerable damage and crowd control during its duration, it is a great way to start a fight versus a squishy warrior. Use it at the right time, and you can send any warrior violently over the edge. Finally, Argus can deploy a rolling siege engine that deals constant damage to enemy buildables it runs into. Using it to clear your opponent's base is key. You can also send it down ramps to disrupt your opponent or clear a path to help you score. Be careful though, the initial moments you place the siege engine is very vulnerable and can be destroyed in one shot. Argus is a bruiser that gets in your face with powerful combos. Get caught out of position against him with no escapes and you can find yourself being killed very fast. Argus's high mobility makes him great for securing kills and harassing the back line. He excels at clearing enemy buildables or securing the buff crystals. While not as tanky as Black Knight, he still makes for an excellent relic runner. Be careful though, if caught out of position with no mobility options left, you can find yourself in a situation with no escape. Hey, and that's our first video we've put together. So feedback, always very much appreciated. You can leave the feedback here in the chat, tweet it at us at TownHall Breakaway or TH Breakaway, or that will be going up on YouTube now-ish.
Yeah, it's a YouTube video, so it'll be pushed live there as well. So that's going to be. It was fun. It was fun to make. This is the first time I've ever done a project like that, and we got more coming. I'm happy with it for our first video.
Again, the whole goal with these videos is to be a resource for like new players, right? We're trying to build a database of, since this game is in its infancy, And once it does go live, people are going to want to have a preview of like, oh, check out this cool character I think is really fun to play. And you can link that video to your buddy. It's 2 minutes, right? It's just super, super straightforward, simple, and clean. And that's the whole goal there. But let's talk a little bit about Argus in, I guess, his new form and where we think he'll stand. Because yes, his the hit stun change is massive. We have yet to be able to actually play that. And all of that footage did include the little micro hit stuns that he does have on his primary attack. But, you know, when you look at Argus and if you're to rate Argus as someone for moving the relic independently or with a team, how valuable is he in that regard, Kalo?
Well, obviously having double dashes is pretty awesome. Even more so than just that, though, I think at higher level plays, you'll see a lot of him, you know, maybe self-passing and then giving it to a teammate and then just disrupting the enemies that are chasing the people on the breakaway, which I think is pretty significantly valuable.
Yeah,
like Zoya was saying earlier, he's a jack of all trades. You know, that's what he is. So.
If you had to say there's a single go-to relic in almost any situation that you want to pick before I start your game for Argus, what would it be?
You're talking about the relic runes?
Yes, sorry.
I'm a little biased right now because I think one rune in particular needs nerfing,
The
and
heal?
that's the heal.
So
It's so powerful right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
The heal one's
okay,
pretty
maybe-
good.
What if I don't say that one though? With good teamwork, the passing range is awesome.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Anytime I'm in a 4-stack, I do the passing range one because you can just really just style on people with some good ball play or relic play. So, I'm pretty. I if I'm in a 4-stack, I go with the pass one. But if it's solo play, I usually do the heal one just because usually once you like understand the importance of running the relic, you're going to be the one doing it most of the time in pub games. So. And it heals for a lot. It's like, what, 50 or 40 HP a second? That's so
Too much.
nuts. It's so nuts.
It's insane. You just kind of walk to the side. You're like, I'm good. We don't need an alone at this game. I got the ball. But, okay. You know, so obviously the video covers a lot of the small details when it comes to the fact that he can knock you off the map, the fact that he's, you know, excels in chasing the ball. But without the hit stun on his auto attack, is he going to be... do you think he'll still be a big threat to the backline? Because right now he can just combo you and pretty much light you up.
I want to say yes, but not for everybody, right?
Yeah.
This is at a competitive level. People who know how to play the character will still be able to combo with your abilities, attack ability, finish with retribution or whatever, you know. So
Yeah, weaving in your
think
autos
yes.
is important.
Yep.
I think so, too. Again, my biggest feedback or criticism of the hero before, or warrior before, was he just had a really high skill floor. It was very easy to get value out of him, no matter how good of a player you were. He was a very like beginner entry level hero, and you could do a lot with him, no matter your skill level. So I definitely think good players will still be able to shine, but we'll have to see. It's such drastic changes that we don't actually know.
All speculation.
It makes it hard for us to do a full deep dive after that.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of funny. But.
Yeah, because we weren't expecting the hit stun changes to come in. So I guess that's a topic we'll have to revisit a little bit more. I mean, obviously expectations for the character overall exist. We know we talked about his strengths, and they're pretty much across the board.
Did we talk about items for him?
No, we didn't. So that is a good point. When it comes to building him, is there a pattern everyone should follow? Is there an exact go-to? Is there conditions in which you'd want to go for maybe boots or cooldown reduction instead of attack? Like, where does he sit?
I love how the shop is set up because there's no absolutes and the items are so simple. So you know, depending on the situation, awesome. But for Argus, I think starting attack just to build your pressure early on. I talk about snowballing with Argus a lot. I think that's super important. So starting with attack, and then I actually don't think he needs to start armor pen unless people are stacking armor, I guess. So I usually go armor afterwards, or even to start with armor sometimes, depending on the team I'm against. So yeah.
Yeah. Um, I am partial to HP on a lot of heroes just because it's so valuable, especially if you have a good healer with you. You can just recycle that extra value over and over. So I like going health on him. He's not a character that you necessarily, if you're in a game where you need to PvE a lot, you can get an early point into the mercenary damage. But I feel like his damage overall is pretty solid. So you don't need to feel forced to spend your early points going damage right out the gate, because his damage is so good. So I like defensive items for the most part on Argus. Maybe late game, start transitioning more into pen, but early game, the extra survivability will keep you in fights a lot longer. Armor and health.
Is there a science to armor versus health as to which is more beneficial in the long run? Because obviously, having armor penetration and that being an item you can build into is great and all, but is armor just always going to be a better early game item?
I wouldn't say always, especially with this like weird meta that's been going around of people just starting armor pen and just going heroic on it no matter what. You have to play the fool when you're in a fool's meta kind of thing. So like Zoya said, with HP, I've actually been really enjoying that. So it depends. Just you got to watch builds. You got to watch your enemies' builds. So yeah.
It's all reactionary, all responsive. A lot of the times we're trying to bait your one player into the other and building a comp that is hard to challenge with a single item. So makes sense. Cool. Well, again, Argus, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys in the community discover and how you guys feel about him. And actually, we'll try to get some opinions for the next episode of TownHall Breakaway on Argus and where he stands with the hit stun changes, because as we said, it is a pretty big change.
I just want to say really quickly that the video was really, I'm glad that we were able to release it. Please give us like as much feedback as you can. We know it's not perfect. I'm the one that wrote the script for it, and it's my first time writing a script like that, like actual like a production type script. And then Jake did all the actual production end things. Like he's the one that got all the footage. He did the voiceover. He did the editing and stuff. And he's obviously a god at that. But this is my first time doing actual like script writing. So any feedback would be appreciated on the video because we plan on pumping out more. We're working on 2 more right now. And then plan on churning out more and more as the weeks go on. So any feedback on these videos would be great.
Yeah, very much so. Always very much appreciated. But all right, let's move into our interview segment. And dude, let's just throw down and talk about your experience with this game over the last year. Now, I know that you said you went to TwitchCon and you experienced the game. And the game has had closed alpha tests where you can't really disclose what actually happened because there's an NDA. I understand that. But for a game to have far and few, as far as I understand it, alphas, until recently, where we now have alpha weekends which anyone can apply for and anyone can get into. So if you don't have an alpha key, get on that, man. Play breakaway.com. What kept your attention into the game? Because this community is small and very tight-knit and very dedicated. And I've played in alphas where if I can't play all the time, like, if I have to wait a month for the next test or whatever, dude, I'm gone. And I find it so cool that there's such a tight-knit community around here. So
I think I speak for a lot of us when I say our dedication is because of the devs' dedication. They've 100% been involved with the community, just as community members, as long as we have. People like Resident Couch, Beller Darkstone, Butterbeanie, etc., have been as active or even more so than some of us in the Discord, just chatting, just being people with us. And I think that tight-knitness in the community comes from that sort of fostering of it from the devs as well.
I'd have to echo that I felt that in my very short time in this community. The first time I ever streamed it, devs in the chat, playing in the games and stuff, having a good time, giving anyone in the chat that was asking a code, like super cool So shout out to the devs for being just ridiculously receptive to everyone and ridiculously approachable, because that's so foreign to pretty much my entire experience in the last 10 years of esports. I mean, I go from running Smash Brothers tournaments for MLG, where Nintendo literally wouldn't let us broadcast tournaments. They're just like, no, you're not allowed to broadcast this tournament that you're paying to run. And to have a dev that actually is this close to the community is the polar opposite of what I was dealing with years and years ago.
So even from a non-esports perspective,
Yeah.
like me and my buddies are alpha, slaves. We had signed up for, we follow all the alpha websites that like let you know what games have alpha signups. We play the worst games from the
There are
best
alpha
games.
websites that tell you what
Yeah.
alphas are happening.
Yeah.
News
Yeah,
to
there
me
are.
too.
Yeah, we sign up for literally the worst games and the best games, and across. Oh, I can't remember a single alpha where the devs are like just talking with the community like people. I guess that's the best way Kalo put it, because I've been like few alphas have been like that. Like the Dauntless Alpha, the devs are in a Discord, but they don't really with with the player base.
Yeah, they do announcements, right?
Yeah, they do announcements, but they don't actually like talk to you and like just shoot the shit with you. Like the devs are, it's completely different from any alpha I've ever experienced. So,
Yeah.
the devs are definitely number one for me right now about this game. They're great. They sent us patch notes before they went live. Hello, what?
That's not it. It's amazing.
So cool.
So what are your aspirations with this game? Obviously, you're playing a lot, you're streaming a lot, and you've invested into the mic. You've got a great quality stream. Props on that. Twitch.tv/KaloLogical.
Kalo Logi. Kalo Logi. Yeah. I'm hoping to take the Kalo username after getting partnered. It's an inactive account. I have it bookmarked in Chrome, and I check it like every other day, just to make sure no one's using it. So yeah, that's the plan. For Breakaway though, I've said it publicly before. I have aspirations to go competitive pro in this game, and I'm trying to keep as many doors open for myself in that regard. And it's the grind, we're all on the grind right now. So yeah.
For Zoya and I, we were part of Heroes when Heroes was a baby. Alpha had just started, and
From before Alpha started, we did
before
our first
Alpha
episode of
started,
TownHall
yeah.
Before we even could play the game, like 5 weeks before it was playable, we did 5 episodes of TownHall Heroes before I even touched it.
I had
Jake
played it at
BlizzCon.
BlizzCon. Yeah.
I hadn't touched it once, so we were there babies of Heroes.
And there's already been some expressed interest around the game. So we know that Rogue and Misfits did a show match, and I think that's good. Red Bull was also involved in that project for Battle on the High Seas. So obviously there's already some esports organizations showing interest. Enix,
yeah.
Enix. They picked up a squad. We talked about that in episode 1. Outside of that, do you have a full squad yet? Are you reaching out to sponsors? How many full squads exist in this alpha? It's got to only be a handful, right?
So yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's just a handful. I'd like to say there's a difference between a squad and a team right now. I'd say Enix is probably the only real team. They've been together for longer than I've known them, and they're great guys, obviously. As for myself, I'm also in that sort of developing it stage. I will say, a little teaser for you guys. There are some things happening behind the scenes that I hope will be announced sooner than later. But yeah.
Right on.
What's your ideal esports situation for this game in the future?
Near future, I'd love to see a tournament at a convention. They had the H1Z1 Invitational at last TwitchCon, and that game's not an esport, for bluntly put. If Breakaway can get itself into beta and up on its feet and have tournaments running sooner than later, maybe have a big tournament by the end of the year.
You mean LANs?
We'll be in a good spot.
Actual LANs.
The actual tournament. Maybe have the finals of an online tournament at LAN or something at TwitchCon or something down the line. That would be awesome. Point being, I want to see it get kickstarted sooner than later, and I think we can do that.
I mean, the game's got the potential. Otherwise, Zoya and I wouldn't be making content for it. We like esports, man. We like esports that are hype and fun and have, I was even saying to these guys before we started the show, one of my favorite parts of this game is one player can make a mistake and then the game can be over 15 seconds later. And I feel like there's a lot of esports nowadays that aren't like that. Like Overwatch. You watch Overwatch. It's like, oh, this guy just made a terrible, terrible play. Oh, but Mercy sweeps in and reses everyone. There's like, it's just like a holding ults kind of game. And I find that game to be super hard to watch as an esport. I'm not trying to bash Overwatch esports. I love Overwatch. I just find it to be very difficult to watch. Yo, I'm just being real.
Overwatch sucks, guys. Yeah, screw that game.
No, I'm actually going to go play Doomfist after this show. But
It was fun.
got to squeeze them in before servers go live. What are your favorite parts about the game overall, Zoya?
I hate downtime in games. That's the thing I hate about PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds right now is there's like so much time where like you won't see anyone and you're just like looting and like it's such a long game. Heroes of the Storm, man, it's like it can be so slow sometimes. It's just like you got games like Dota. Like I would love to be in the Dota, but no, God no, the game's so slow, it takes so long. These matches are fast, and they're not just like fast in like the length of them. They're fast in like how they're played. Like there's no downtime. You're not just sitting there and base camping. Yeah. You're not sitting there, like doing like a little standoff, a camp war. It's just there's always something going down, and I love that. It's, when you die, you don't have like a respawn from a base that's 3 miles away and you have to slowly trot back. You respawn, not too far away. And with the movement options, you can zip across the map pretty fast. Even if your team's pressuring the enemy goal, you can get over there in a reasonable amount of time. So the pacing of everything is great for me.
I never even thought about that. But the fact that you immediately have something to do when you respawn in the event of just sliding down your ramp. Like you're immediately doing something. It makes your trek back into the fight feel like non-existent. You're just like whoop whoop, here we go, like, and you're back. That's actually so smart.
Yeah. Another thing I like to touch on is I think buildables are a super unique aspect that make the game feel like really dynamic. It's kind of early right now. I feel like a lot of people are on the fence about, maybe we have a buildable pool like the relic runes instead, and you pick from them, although I don't agree with that. Bottom line being, I think the buildables make characters feel unique in a way that other games just don't have.
Yeah, and the fact that everyone gets a buildable is so nice. You just don't have those cancer buildable heroes like Torbjorn and stuff, because everyone's a cancer buildable hero in this game.
Well,
right? So
let's face it, Amazon Game Studios, owned by Amazon. I'm sure Amazon has capacity to make action figures. Every good action figure comes with a little add-on, the buildable.
Oh, no. God, put Jake on the marketing team.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I love the buildables too, just because like it's a resource. And, that's something I vent about a lot in esports is like management of resources and being able to deny or maintain a resource across the map is so cool to me. Say that your sun shrine stays alive and then you got 2 sun shrines on the map, and then maybe you can afford to put one offensively for a big push because you have one you can already fall back to. Those kind of moments create really big power plays for a team, setting up more opportunities, which is you're really gonna see teams that just outclass another team in buildables alone. I feel like
I agree.
It's also good to play. I mean, we talked about this last week, but we'll talk about it again now because we have Kalo here. I've missed item shops, man. Item shops are good. Like, games have strayed away from them. They allow so much diversity and individual playstyle. You can take 5 Thorgrim mains, and each one of them can have different build orders and play completely different playstyles. And I'm so glad we have that option in this game.
I'll be honest.
Items are great.
I avoided MOBAs until Heroes, pretty much. I played Awesomenauts, and Awesomenauts had an item store, but you had to predefine your build. So you had to commit to like basically what items you'd have allowed, and that's something they've changed since then. But back when I played Awesome Knots, you basically built a deck of abilities, and then you bought them with Solar, which was the currency in the game. I always avoided item shops because I was like, man, I don't want that burden of learning this big item shop. I've played a little bit of League, I played a little bit of Dota, and I was just like, this sucks. But the item shop in this game is just like you said, you still get the experience of being able to customize and just define your own playstyle without it being this stupid, obnoxious, thread of Thandrasil and boot of Thundercleese and to make the gauntlets of Fudaflops. Like, I don't want that. Don't steal my names. Those are copyright.
Yeah. I mean, I come from, I played League, I played Dota, and I love the item shops. And what turned me off from Smite was, there was, in Smite, you don't get access to the full item shop. If you're a mage, you only get access to ability power items, and as a physical damage, you only got physical damage items. And in League, you could do magic damage or physical damage, and there were builds for both. Like Ezreal's a perfect example. You had the auto and the blue build, and that diversity was what turned me off from Smite. And then a lot of games have just completely gone away from it. But this game, the item shop is very simple. You look at this, it's one page, and you can clearly tell what each item does. Like, there's no stressing over it. And for new players, you're just like, okay, damage, right? Or okay, health, right? So it's very simple. But there's still enough diversity in that simplicity that you can do whatever the hell you want in the game.
Kalo, did you play Smite? Because when I think about Breakaway, when you look at it, your first glimpse is, okay, design wise, in terms of the perspective and the abilities, it feels similar or looks similar to Smite. And I have played probably half a game of Smite in my life, so I can't even compare the two. But do you have experience in the game?
Yeah, I'm nothing competitive or whatnot, but I've played a fair amount of it. And I think Smite players are actually going to have probably the best or the easiest time transitioning into Breakaway. I think a lot of their skills will translate over because of the third person, obviously. I agree with Zoya, though. I was going to bring that up about the item shop in Smite being mages are locked to ability power and hunters are locked to attack damage. That was never a nice thing to me. Although, on the other hand, the simplicity in that type of build, okay, I know I'm playing against a mage. At least I know the mage is going to be doing ability things, right? So there's trade-offs, and I think that simplicity in this game could even be expanded. Part of me wants to see item shop expansions, maybe we have one more item in all of the 3 categories: attack, defense, and utility sometime down the line. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that brings up a good point, because Paragon, when it first went into its beta or alpha, its item shop was a mess. And I remember my first game playing Morden or something like that. He looked like an attack. He was a gun guy, so it was attack damage. But all of his damage was ability, magical based. So I ended up building full attack damage and was doing no damage with him at all. So there's a good point that with Smite you weren't ever going to body yourself with building the wrong items. But I think so far this game has hit the sweet spot. But a few more items would be nice. Just no more what was the gold gain over time items? Never again, please. Never again,
Philosopher's Stone. That item actually used to be the least popular item in the game. And
really?
Then people started talking about it, and I made a post about it saying, hey, this needs to be removed. It's going to be the meta forever. And lo and behold, finally it's being taken out.
It was pretty nuts.
Yep.
You could get away with a lot there. Just stall out the game, keep making money. So I'm glad that one's gone. But more items, please. Yes, not that one though.
Yeah. I have a question actually. The power-ups, does damage versus buildables work against that, or is it pure just your damage that you go
crystals?
For? Yeah.
Yeah, it works against the buffs. Yeah. Attack damage is not, though. So you can buy attack damage and you'll do the same amount of damage to the buffs. Yeah.
So. That's interesting. I thought that might be the case just from playing games, but I didn't know for a fact. But That's another thing that's really that I love about the game is the way they've taken this tiny court, essentially, the battlefield, and turned it into a map with resources and different terrain that is actually super meaningful. When I saw there was multiple maps, I was like, is it actually going to feel different? It totally feels different, right? Like drastically different as to how you want to approach it. I forget who I was playing against. I'm pretty certain Flipped Up was what was on the team. It was probably like Flipped Up and Cipher, maybe Gutter Magic. I'm not sure who the squad was, but I don't know the map names yet because I'm still such a scrub. It was the map with the elevators.
Oh, Atala Prime.
Atala Prime. And there's that little tiny ramp on the top of the elevator. You're up the elevator. There's a little tiny ramp. We had a Thorgrim wall blocking that path, but I want to say it was Flipped Up. That was an Argus. He used the ramp. He jumped right over my head, and then he passed it to their Kyra, who then just launched into the air and went whoop over my whole team. I was just like, that is so dirty. But I was like, you couldn't do that on a different map. Right. And the way that worked, I was like, holy crap, this is actually so cool.
Yeah. You can also, depending on how the Thorgrim wall is placed, you can go around it too with the momentum from the slide. You can actually jump along the left side of it. K1 and I made a bet that he said I couldn't do it, and I did it, and I made him look stupid, and it felt great.
What did Kyra say when she used her E? I'm a taller than you. Chronic.
Ban him. Get him out of the chat.
Ban him. It's over.
Something I do want to talk about now. We're talking about the crystal buffs. I'm very happy they nerfed. I don't remember what it was before, but they nerfed the gold, right? It was like 750 to 400 or something.
500.
500. I'm glad they nerfed the gold buff. Winning that, especially round one, did not feel good. To lose that. So I'm glad they did that change.
One thing.
A full item.
Heroic perks, I think, there are some that feel misplaced still. Like buildable thorns, I think that item would actually be pretty good if it didn't have the heroic perk that it does, where you just get it placed back in your inventory if it gets hit when you're placing it. It seems like a very non-heroic perk. I don't know. A few other ones, like the buildable damage one, it makes sense. It makes like an explosion around it that hurts other buildables, but it's not super important,
Yeah.
There are some things like that I feel like could be changed around.
Yeah, because people like to bash on those items a lot. The thorns one hurts. Like if you're not paying attention, you'll hurt yourself pretty bad. And the buildable health, like if you got a Thorgrim with buildable health, that's the dumbest thing I've ever. It's so tanky. So they're not that awful. I agree that maybe some heroic changes with both those specifically could bring their viability up a bit, because I don't think they're booty butt cheeks like everyone thinks, or they have the potential to keep the core of them there and then become more valuable. Because right now, I agree, the heroics they're not worth the money.
I remember I was reading some of the Discord chat of people like suggesting they should create multiple options for the heroic perks or something along those lines, but I think that takes away the beauty of the store being simple and like streamlined, right? It's straightforward. You just upgrade, the damage, you upgrade the armor, you upgrade the health, and when you get the full upgrade, you get the added bonus of the buildable or of the heroic perk. So
I didn't get to play much last weekend. There was a bug where if you would try to buy a different item, sometimes it wouldn't unselect a different one. Was that fixed last weekend? Because I only played like 2 games last weekend. So I was pretty bad. Okay, that's a bug that I would like addressed ASAP, please. Because I get so tilted when I accidentally buy the wrong item and I close the shop and I can't unbuy. I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah, that's the worst.
But that was a bug that I noticed that I really want gone.
It's also super hard to sell items because you want to click on the item you want to sell, but then it buys the next tier of that item immediately. Yeah. So some small things, right?
Yeah, and like with alt tabbing, it's a little janky. So that's one of the small things. Like you said, at least there's an undo button. If there wasn't an undo button, then it would be Inferno tilt status. The undo button makes it all okay, but still sometimes it might keep me in base a couple seconds longer than I want.
Let's see what I also want to. Well, the other buffs besides first of all, the gold buff change. Do you think 500 is reasonable, or do you think it needs to go down a little bit more?
I think it is for what the buffs are right now. I actually did a write-up a couple weeks ago about buffs they feel kind of after at a competitive level at least they feel kind of stale. You start the round, you have your Kyra go to a buff, and maybe you're competing with the other Kyra, and then you 50-50 to see who gets the buff. You know, so I suggested maybe if there were the buffs were made weaker instead of like 25% attack damage or whatever it is, you made it like 8. And then the buff stacked permanently throughout the rounds. So if you got 3 of that attack buff, then you've got 25% attack, something like that. I think that like gradual buildup could be pretty cool, and it would make all the buffs more valuable, because if it stacks 3 times or whatever it is, then it's pretty crazy to deal with. So something like that. I don't know.
The gold buff's the only one that has that value.
Right.
The gold buff,
exactly.
getting it transfers to the next round, the other one does. So I actually like that a lot.
Yeah, I think that's why I like it so much too, because like you said, the gold buff is valuable like forever, you know, and making that part of the narrative, making that part of the strategy. Like if you want to play the game for a late game and put a little bit of additional emphasis on the buffs early, you might lose the first round, you might lose the second round, but if you get that third round buff, suddenly you have such a big advantage, and your opponents are going to struggle to close it out when it comes to just team fighting, at least in the kill potential. And I guess that's the beauty of the game. It's not just about being able to kill your opponent. Some teams will actually just be god tier when it comes to moving the ball. Other teams will just be gods of defense. Some teams might just be all about, you know, the buff control and map control in general. And I think that's going to be such an amazing thing to see evolve as teams get really, really good. And as this game, it's going to take a long time for this game to really, really get developed and these teams to define themselves in a competitive space. But dude, I'm excited for it. I really am. I like that suggestion a lot, though.
I'd like to see it implemented. Try it. Why not? You know. One other thing in that regard, you're talking about control play styles. I think so. We've got teams that run the ball, and we've got teams that want to fight to win. And I think the third play style that needs to be emphasized, and that buff change could be the start of it, is the control play style. People who want to defend the ball and defend themselves. It's going to be kind of a stally type play style, and if it gets too strong, I feel like we'd have to change it a little bit. But I think that third play style needs to be part of the game, because it just it makes sense that there's a defensive type of play, and I don't think that's rewarded right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes when we're doing our 4-stack, we'll intentionally like build items, and we'll have a comp where we know in the early game we're not as strong. So we go, we'll get like the fumble one, and we'll go for like some fumbles. We'll go for like, a bit more long term, get some kills and farm some gold, and knowing that we might not be able to control the ball. We might not be able to, fully team wipe them in round 1 and 2. But rounds 3, 4, and 5, we're going to have so much gold. We're going to, our comp's going to be scaling harder than yours. And then we're going to be able to win the team fights. We're going to be able to run the ball easier, and so on. So, but it's tough to do sometimes. There's not enough options for that. But it can easily snowball out of control, because you don't want this game to become campy. You don't want it to become slow. But the play style definitely.
You say campy, but like. They're 4-minute rounds anyways, and there's always going to be ways to break through, find an opportunity, knock someone off the map, whatever. It's not like the map's so big. A good victor can defend a spawn for days with a splash. Like you can be like 2 feet from scoring for like 2 minutes, and if make sure you're connecting your right attacks, especially when you're standing in your heal spawn, you're not going to kill the victor if he's building defense. So, yeah, I mean, camping can happen.
Speaking of Victor, I'm really disappointed his bubble didn't get changed in these patch notes.
It got a
cooldown nerf.
Where you want to get bigger?
Something, I don't know, something to where it actually defends the person, the Victor that's in the bubble.
It's really good against bots.
I mean,
if there's ever a bot Argus on me, I'm getting away from him. That's for sure.
I think Victor's going to be better off with the hit stun removal. I think it's going to be very beneficial for him, because now, even if the first pulse knocks someone a little bit away, that should be enough for him to kind of slip away. I mean, yeah, Argus is going to have like 8 options to chase after him, but
it's true.
It used to be much bigger though, right? I remember like 3 tests ago. It was like the very first Victor play test, maybe. I don't remember.
Yeah,
but it used to be really big.
His right click,
yeah.
And it was definitely too big then. it was obnoxious back then. Like if you could get away with so much as Victor, so it definitely needed to be nerfed. But I agree, it's a little small right now because a good player is not gonna. A good player's still gonna kill.
It.
A good player's still gonna kill you. So, but bots, use your right click versus the bots, guys. They'll slam into that thing all day.
So with the high level advice.
Woo!
Well,
hopefully bots aren't a factor much anymore because they said they've been working on the serviceability. So hopefully there's less bots in the games, but we'll see. I'm excited, man.
It's still alpha. I'm not really.
50 minutes from now, we get to see the hit stun change, and I'm very hyped about that.
Yeah, 50 minutes till not only do we get to see the hit stun change, we get to see the new Black Knight.
Merrick the Devourer.
Oh, that's gonna be so cool.
What if he's like not cool at all, and he's just a big oaf with a sandwich, and he's devours sandwiches?
So I was a GM for season 3. I got to draft a team and all that for the devs in-house league, along with a few other of our community members, Full Metal, Shadosha, Flipped Up, and Miss DJM. Miss DJ and I were in the finalists. Our teams were in the finals, and so we got flown out to Cali. Another shout out to the devs, and we may or may not have gotten to see some things, including Merrick.
Like sandwiches?
No
and
sandwich.
Bottom line, Merrick is my favorite visual change of all the characters. It's very spicy, so yeah, I'm excited for people to see it.
All right, confirmed he's on fire because he said spicy. He's flaming.
You're
We'll
so
have to find
lame.
out. I know. Making the dad jokes. Slowly but surely becoming more of a dad. So, by the way, I'm pregnant.
Oh.
Yep.
No.
Confirmed on stream.
Confirmed on stream. I don't know if there's anything else I want to ask Kalo.
Well, I just wanted to give Kalo the floor then to just kind of, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I'm glad I got to bring up the buff thing. I know there's devs in the chat, and I'm glad we got to talk about that. The main thing for me, like overall, is I want the game or the devs to feel comfortable in making drastic changes like this hit stun thing, especially in alpha. I know that the community is very tight knit, and with that tight knitness comes some pretty strong opinions about things that matter to people. I just, I want to put it out there that, let them test these kinds of weird things, because when beta hits, when launch comes, it's not going to be that easy. So,
yeah. And always keep in mind that the loudest part of the community isn't always the majority. There could be like a lot of people screaming and crying about something while most people find it okay. So, do what you guys got to do to make the game that you want to make. Our input's always valuable and stuff, but
yeah,
these changes are great. Like these need to happen in the alpha because, like Jake or Kalo said earlier, I don't remember who. Once this game's launched, you can't make a change this drastic, like without it being like a complete revamp of the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now is the time. So yeah, test them out. We'll sweep back, talk about it next week. See how the changes feel with everyone.
Are you confirming episode 3 next week, Jake?
I just did it, boys.
Oh,
because we're not committing to a weekly show until this game's like a little bit further along. Because right now, 3 days of servers being up, 3.5 days, and no tournaments. We said we wouldn't confirm a weekly show, but with a change like this to test, just hours away, we're definitely gonna be hopping in and doing episode 3 next week.
We got a lot to talk about next week.
Yeah, we do. But I think it is time for shoutouts, and we'll start with you, Kalo. Thank you so much for coming on. Where can all these nerds find you?
So I'm going to be streaming on Twitch all weekend. I always am, especially during breakaway times. I'm also doing alpha code giveaways. Little shameless plug there. You can find me at Kalology. I'll put my name in the chat, and my Twitter is also Kalological. Really hoping to get that changed real soon, though. So
you can change your Twitter.
I know.
But your Twitch, I see.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Zoya.
No shout outs from me really, just follow this channel because we do Town Hall Heroes every week, and we also hopefully more consistent with this show, we will be back next week because we got a lot to talk about. Again, check out the Breakaway Warrior Spotlight for Argus that we made. We both put work into it, and we're both itching to release it for this entire week. We've been counting down the minutes, and it's not perfect, obviously, so feedback would be great, but expect more videos like that. And I'm going to ban Chronic.
Did he make a bad joke?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So that's it for me. Yeah, just follow this channel. This is where I pop up a lot.
Yeah, big shout out to you guys for joining me. Talking about the show. Kalo, it was great having you on. I've been enjoying your stream a lot, so I suggest everyone check it out this weekend during Breakaway. I'm going to the Cape, so I can't play that much. I'm going to be playing tomorrow, so that's about it. But I'm going to go to Zoe knows Kubi. We started TownHall with our good friend Kubi, TownHall Heroes that was, and he doesn't do the show anymore, but I get to see him every once in a while. And every summer we go to the Cape and hang out at his grandma's house. She's not there.
That's awesome.
She's not there. We get the house to ourselves. That's gonna be fun. And, yo, I'm going parasailing.
2 married men alone in a house. Nice.
We're not gonna be alone. Our wives will be there.
Oh, that's such a bummer.
But we're going parasailing, and I'm super excited for it. I think that's gonna be
right
really
on,
fun.
man.
It's dope.
As long as we don't get eaten by sharks. We'll be back next week with another show. Really looking forward to talking about the changes to Hit Stun and how that feels for everyone. I can't wait to see the new Black Knight or Merrick skin that we have coming out just in about half hour, 45 minutes. And thank you all for tuning in. Feedback on basically everything, always very much appreciated. Follow Arcane8 here on Twitch. Follow Arcane8 on YouTube, Arcane8_GG on Twitter, or just TH Breakaway on Twitter if you want to consolidate it down to this podcast. That does it for us, though. GG's, and have a good night.